right. Well, hello, everyone, and welcome to the program. As always, I am absolutely thrilled that you are here. If you've never checked us out before, we are primarily an interview and a commentary-based podcast. My name is Billy Dees, and on the line with me is Joel Rakow. Joe, how are you doing, man?
Yeah, I'm good. Yeah.
That's awesome.
I just came away from the ping pong tables.
The ping pong tables?
Yeah.
Did you win?
Well, we play many games.
Oh, well, that sounds cool. That's, you know what George Carlin used to say, that tennis was basically ping pong, except you're standing on the table. So they're kind of interchangeable.
Right.
Let me tell you a little bit about Joe. Joe, in our world where the truth is buried under layers of deception, one soldier's discovery of a secret Chinese bioweapon lab on American soil ignites a battle against government overreach, woke institutional lies, and the fight for free speech. Our guest, Joel Rakow, is a Harvard Fellow, Secret Service advisor, and author of the gripping novel Life in Woke America, a family story of truth and betrayal under fire. The story is inspired by real events. We're going to talk about this from this hero's perspective, from a foster care survivor to InfoWar battle and congressional whistleblower, blending faith, family resilience, and unfiltered alignment with the U.S. Constitution. There's a lot to... That's a lot. Let's talk a little bit about you. So where are you from? Where part of the world do you hail from?
So I grew up in Eastern California, about 20 miles north of the border. After World War II, in a little dusty town that was occupied by Oklahomans who left because of the Dust Bowl, and Germans who got out of Germany just in the nick of time.
Oh, wow.
And I was a tall, red-headed, left-handed Jewish kid, and a baseball player.
Okay.
And so I learned that they wouldn't like me unless I pitched a good game or I got some hits, and I knew that would get me on the team. And they would then become my best friends.
Yeah, that's awesome. You obviously know a little bit about the world. Were you always interested in current events and what's happening in the world and what's impacting different countries and things like that?
Is that a question?
Yeah, I'm asking, were you always interested in that?
Oh, well, no. I mean, I was a kid. I wanted to be a baseball player.
Yeah.
So the story is I grew up in a Democratic family, of 3 generations, and so I went along with it until 2020, and then I resigned from the Democratic Party because it no longer represented. I could feel that it no longer represented my interests and the interests of people that I cared about, which essentially is the middle class.
Yeah. About what time period would this have been that you noticed this shift? Because I
2020, right around COVID.
Okay.
Because what else was going on, right?
Yeah. Okay.
So you asked me a question I didn't answer. It brings you right back to this.
Okay.
So I live on a ranch in Texas that's very big.
Yeah.
It's one of the original ranches from the old days when just after the Homestead Act, when they gave 160 acres to every family that wanted to go settle. But in Texas, 160 acres, you couldn't raise a family on that. Nobody in Washington realized that you just can't grow enough stuff.
Yeah, right.
And so the great grandfather of my wife bought up acreage. He delivered hay to the cavalry at the local fort, and so he had a job, so he was able to buy up all this acreage to the farm. So we live there half time, and we live in Newport Beach half time.
Okay.
So we go back and forth. Now the reason I raise that up is because during COVID we quarantined on the ranch.
I see.
And I had more chance of getting mad cow disease than I did COVID.
Yeah. I will play devil's advocate here. I think in the beginning, in the very early stages of this, I don't necessarily fault the president, some of the politicians. If I was, let's say, a politician, and seemingly all the people that knew a lot more about medicine than I did were telling me all these things. Hey, you got to do this, you got to do that. I would be very reluctant to go against that. I wouldn't want to be the person that thumbed my nose to the medical community, and then all of a sudden, piles of bodies are stacked up on the end of the road like garbage getting picked up every day, and it's because I didn't listen to the doctors. But I think as time went on, it was very clear that this was becoming politicized, being weaponized. And how soon did you make that realization that there's something more going on here than just medical precautions? Yeah.
Excellent question. There was a turning point. And every day I would come in from one of the outbuildings where I did my, work, research and work and stuff, come back to the house. I'd turn on YouTube and I'd watch Trump trying to lead the country into figuring out what was going on, what was right, what was wrong. And I go and I listened to him and I'd go, he's doing as well as I could do in trying to figure it out. He's asking questions. He's not coming in with an understanding in advance. He's looking for truth. And then he got totally berated and smeared. The next day, it was like, I watched that thing. It wasn't like that at all.
Right, exactly.
So that's when I realized, the fix was in. I didn't know what it was, but I knew that it just was. That's not how you pursue truth in a free society.
I totally agree. And you know what? In terms of information, I'm kind of for all the information flowing, because what's propaganda today is, as we found out with so many other things, like the lab leak was called a hoax. But I really think that everyone being able to share the information that they have is what ultimately leads the public to make their own determination, do their own investigating. And when you're completely shut down and silenced because you don't walk the line, I think that hurts everybody in terms of the truth coming out. I would rather hear even the theories that I don't agree with. I want everything to flow free. Is that kind of where you're at? Is that how you feel?
Yeah, you're exactly right. I mean, you never know when you find the truth. Yes. Until it's too late. I mean, it's afterwards when you see the proof of the fact that, hey, that's the way it works.
Yes.
But the pursuit of truth is just an approximation.
Yes.
And you can't shut down certain parts of the inquisition or the inquiry in advance.
Yes.
And so here's what was operating from what I could tell. There was a consensus that had been formed and then was being enforced. And if you didn't buy into the consensus, then you were canceled or you were othered.
Yes.
And that's not a free society.
Exactly. Let's define your book, because we're talking about a lot here. There's a lot that pertains to you personally as an author and as a person, and the book itself. The book is called Life in Woke America, A Family Story of Truth and Betrayal Under Fire. Now, this is a work of fiction, correct?
It's a work of art.
It's a work of art. Can't argue with that either. That's funny. That's good. But it is inspired by real events, and it's one of those things that you can see the parallels as you follow the story. Am I correct in that? You want to talk just a little bit what the book is?
Yeah. So you're absolutely right. So there's this real thing that on a big scale that sparked the whole thing.
Okay.
And it was the discovery in real life of a Chinese bioweapon laboratory in California, about 40 miles or 30 miles or so away from Fresno, which is a pretty rural big town, into a smaller kind of 25,000 person big town or little, rural town.
Mm-hmm.
It was so stunning and so big that there was a congressional investigation, a congressional hearing, and about a 50-page report that was issued at the end of it. And so when I heard about it, and you never read anything about it at above the fold on any newspaper in America.
Yes.
And yet it was real, true, and it was verified. I mean, I got pictures, I've got letters, I got correspondence, I got all that stuff in the report. I've seen it. Congress has seen it. But somehow nobody wanted to talk about it.
Yeah.
There was Gordon Chang, who is, is like the sole person. And fortunately, he has a platform, and he was able to get it out. And so that's the springboard for the story.
Okay.
And if you think about a soldier who might go out and working in the community, he is in contact with the law enforcement. They discover this thing. He comes back to the base. He wants to talk about it and whip people in attention because this is the Chinese. It's definitely Chinese. All the lab notes are in Chinese.
Yeah.
And the names of the people who have the lease and the scientists are Chinese. I mean, it's just like there's no way that it isn't. And that's the real stuff.
Yeah.
And then instead of the military getting behind him, his own company, his own officers, his own base commanders, instead of getting behind him and going and investigating it and getting people involved, they suppress it.
Yeah.
And they suppress it so much that they ultimately do what they did to him. That is what they did to Pete Hegseth and Tulsi Gabbard. Is they threaten that he will go on a no-fly watch list, and that he will be dishonorably discharged. So in the story, he lucks out because he gets invited or subpoenaed to testify before Congress a few months before he was going to get out of the Army. And so once he received that subpoena, nobody could talk to him. So they quit harassing him. And then by the time the hearing was held and he conducted it, then it was only a few weeks until he got out. So he squeaked out, barely.
Yeah.
But they never removed the watch list, the no-fly watch list. And it wasn't even a real thing. It wasn't the real watch list that TSA uses, but it was a watch list that they put out on all the police network so that the police, when they would ever stop him or do something, they'd see that he was a terrorist.
Yeah.
And he was half Mexican and half, it turns out, to be another nationality. I'm not going to say because that's disclosed later in the book. So he's kind of mixed ethnicity. And so nobody ever really knew what to expect from him. But he also, when you get stopped by the police, it's a tenuous situation.
Yeah.
And so that's the story. It's a battle that goes on. And he happens to start out in life as an orphan. And so he's got nothing. He owns nothing. But he's ambitious and he's talented. And so he's smart. And so every time he comes to some kind of like threshold, he figures out what's the best thing for him. And he then takes the better road. And he keeps taking the better road. And he's building something all along. But yet he's got this burden. They call it baggage.
Yeah.
Though he's got this baggage he's carrying with him. And it's a whole story of how do you handle that baggage while you're pursuing a life where you're trying to find a woman that you'd feel good about being with, that she would see you, even though you're an orphan, would see you as being good enough to be with. How do you get a job when you know that you can easily be canceled if you just don't agree? How do you put all that together? That's the story.
That's very interesting. You touch on something there that a lot of people don't really consider when it comes to censorship. It's one thing to have the press do a hit job on you. It's one thing to have the press say something bad about you. But what often most happens is nothing. They turn away from certain stories that doesn't fit the narrative. And you touch on that in this when you talk about censorship and conspiracy, how woke institutions silence patriots and people in general that they just don't agree with. How do you feel about that?
Well, before I tell you about how I feel about it, let me tell you how I've experienced it.
Okay. Sounds good.
And I mean, so I recognize it, and maybe I've experienced it in my own life, but I have credentials and stuff that gets me past a lot of stuff. But this kid didn't.
Yeah.
And so the book itself is experiencing exactly what you described. I can name, if there are 5 steps in the publishing process that are important, I can show you in explicit detail, including transcripts of actual support calls with the web providers, how the book has been what they call today shadow banned.
Yeah.
They don't explicitly ban it. They just do what you did. This guy leaves it on his desk for 6 months and never touches it. This person creates 2 accounts for you on Amazon. So now your ratings are split and no one can see that you have 40 reviews. When they look at that one instance, they see you only have 10, and the other one. Here's a good one. The web host, the first web host that we put our website on, if you came with a browser, you could see the whole website. But if you made a query as an AI platform like Grok or ChatGPT or Perplexity or any of those, a direct query that didn't go through a browser, you saw nothing but plain text.
Interesting.
And so they would treat you as a non-entity. So now you go to use AI, some third party person uses AI, it won't even be in the conversation because you could specifically say, is there a story about an orphan who gets in trouble with the army over a bioweapon? And you couldn't find it. So that's doing exactly what you say. And you never know about it till you discover it.
Yeah.
So what I've learned is that I learned how to be paranoid.
Yeah, you know the old saying, just because you're paranoid doesn't mean people aren't out to get you.
Well, I learned it because it was necessary. I got a technical team, we check everything. And we just found out, so we'd already solved that problem once.
Yeah.
But we just found out yesterday that Perplexity couldn't find one part of our website and said that all it saw was pure text. And it's a very important part of the website. So when we got the whole thing cleared up, we used the top level domain name in order to get it cleared.
Okay.
But this one thing is not top level. And so it suffered the same problem as the top level did.
Interesting.
Yeah. And that's 3 months later.
Wow.
And it's a totally different web company.
Interesting. Well, I don't know how much of that is, could a lot of that just be technical issues, or do you think there was something more going on there?
Well, this is what I attribute it to: pattern recognition. It's happened at every single stage.
Okay.
Now, some of it may be a legitimate mistake, but not everyone. I mean, here's the one that isn't. This book has become a bestseller with being shadow banned. It's won awards. It's in the top 10% of 3 categories of Listopia on Goodreads. It's a high quality book with all 4 and 5-star reviews, except for the ones that are the haters. So it's good quality.
Yeah.
so the first publisher that I went to, they gave me an editor, and the editor looked at the first few pages and said, "Oh, I can help you out here. You got some tense management issues that I'll be able to help you with. Here's the deal. Here's my agreement. This is what I need for upfront payment." So I pay him. He starts. 5 days later, he calls me back and says, "This is not the kind of work that I want to, that I want to be involved in.
Yeah.
I don't want this topic. I don't like it." And so, we settled out. But and he was a high quality editor.
Sure. You talk about the real unrestricted warfare. Is China winning while us woke folks betray the system? And I say us, but I mean we collectively as a country. A suicidal empathy is a term I hear quite often. And I'm not necessarily picking on China. China has some really good hackers. So does Russia. Russia's got some really good hackers. So does Iran, quite frankly. When we make excuses for defending bad actions across the world, and when we blame our own society for problems that are happening within our borders that we have allowed in, that's got to be what the term useful idiot. That has to be what a lot of these nefarious groups around the world who are trying to infiltrate the United States, that's got to be what they are thinking. That the left, the wokeism, the suicidal empathy is all part of a group of useful idiots that they can really use to their own advantage. Would you agree with that?
The question is, do I agree with that?
Yeah, do you agree that that's the problem? I mean, because you talk about the warfare that China is winning while woke elites betray the country. So I kind of expanded on that. I don't think it's just China. Okay. I think there's a lot of people who are using the useful idiots here in this country.
Well, there are four groups, in my opinion, that are trying to either subvert or overtake the United States. And those are the World Economic Forum, the global leaders, the Muslim Brotherhood, China, and get this, the Democratic National Party, or Committee, the DNC.
Yeah, the committee. Yeah.
Okay. So those four are using these means. Now, the way to understand the warfare strategy is that there are the oppressors and there's the oppressed. And the conversation is, as much as possible, is constructed in that manner. And that divides people. It creates a bunch of crazy, half-baked ideas.
Yeah.
And is not at all consistent with the Constitution. It's a complete break with the Constitution. And we'll talk about that in a minute because it's very important to the whole understanding this whole thing. But I want to go back to the oppressed and oppressor. So here's how they've done it. This is how they get it done. This is the University of Southern California. I was on campus for freshman orientation, and there's a class for freshmen that you took, I took, everyone who went to college took. It's how to write an essay.
Yeah.
Right? It's freshman composition.
Sure.
Okay. So here's the instructions for how the class is done at the University of Southern California. Pick any topic you want to write on. Sounds good, right?
Yep.
Okay, I'm going to pick this. I'm going to pick this. Now analyze it in terms of the oppressor and the oppressed. That's your assignment.
Wow.
So they're training people to think like that.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, that's a deliberate act, because nobody in their right mind would tell you how to think about something. The whole point is to learn, how to think about it, not one filter. Right? I'd say you could do this, but you can look at it this way, and you can look at it this way, and you can look at it this way. Go pick what you want. That would be a good course.
Yes.
But okay, so that's kind of the thing that they're doing. And then these people get into the publishing industry, working jobs, and they're looking at manuscripts and stuff like that. And they go, hey, this guy is, he's not oppressed enough. He's an oppressor. And we don't want to even look at his manuscript. Well, we're just going to look at it, but maybe we won't get to it right away because it's more urgent. Now, why is this bad? Well, the Constitution of the United States Constitution says that the rights of the citizen are inalienable, God-given, not from the government, but from being a human, and it's to the individual, not the group. So the very idea of grouping people into oppressed and oppressors is creating groups that have certain rights.
Yes.
But so it's an immediate break with the Constitution.
I see.
And that's a very important thing to realize and of course, they don't teach the Constitution in schools very often. It's become a quiet, not addressed subject. And when it does come up, it's an old document. It's time for it to change. This is the modern world. Right?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. So does that answer your question?
Yes, it does. I think a lot of times, there's a saying that I really like, and that is the road to hell is paved with good intentions. And you can say that about wokeism. I don't necessarily pick on the left. I think the right has gone too far in some cases with some of their beliefs as well.
Can I interrupt on that?
What's that?
Can I interrupt on that?
Sure, go right ahead.
Because I totally agree with you. I thought the Tea Party was reprehensible.
Yes.
I wanted nothing to do with the Republican Party when the Tea Party was hot and heavy, and Rush Limbaugh was kind of the vocal leader of it. I wanted nothing to do with them.
Yeah, I agree with that time period. That's one of the ones I was talking about. But right now, if you have a meter for crazy, right now it goes into the red more often on the left. But the right has had their moments. But I do think sometimes I'm going to give a lot of these folks the best benefit of the doubt is that they are trying to improve society. They are trying to make a difference in a positive way. But there comes a point when they do harm. And I think what happens is the radical elements of some of these movements jump on and push things to the extreme. So with that being said, when does woke end, or when does any movement end and treason begin?
When does any movement end and choosing what?
And treason begins. When does
I see.
When does an innocuous movement like feed the babies? Who can argue with that? Okay, but they pile 10 other things on there that if you disagree with, you're not on board with feeding the babies. And that's how they disguise these movements, and they put in some pretty radical things, and they're actually trying to undermine what are some of the things you're talking about. So in terms of wokeism, in terms of the radical left, when do we stop giving the benefit of the doubt for good intentions and we start to realize what it is, which is trying to change the fundamentals of the country?
Yep. Okay. All right. So this is how I look at it. 50% of the population has an IQ of less than 100. Okay. Maybe it's 110, depends on how you want to argue the IQ thing.
Yeah.
75% of the population has not had advanced education, we'll say. And of the other 25, a good half of them are pretty lazy. So, they're going to take the information where it's easiest to get, and they can feel good about, CNN seems like a good place. The New York Times has been they say they print, the news that's fit to print, and they choose those things, and they ultimately end up believing them, but they're no longer free news outlets. They're all compromised, and there's evidence of that compromise. And so we've got a large number of people that are propagandized.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's not coming from journalists who are free to even write an article on a news thing that they discover. They have to put it through the filter, that consensus that we talked about.
Yeah.
You have to have that consensus. It has to be interpreted that way. So, you know, okay, so that's what's happening. You know, they're useful. You know, they're that whole term of, you know, they're useful to other people, and we have to deal with it.
Yeah.
So here's how I am proposing. You know, and there's others have tried this. So remember the John Birch Society?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So back in the day, the John Birch Society created a thing called the Freedom Index.
Yes.
And it would look at what government officials, how they voted on laws. And it would say, well, 10% of the time, Tallarico, James Tallarico in Texas, 10% of the time, his votes are consistent with the Constitution. That's a fact.
Okay. Yeah.
Lisa Murkowski, 55% of the time, her votes are consistent with the Constitution. And so they would use, back then, they used that as a thing. It was done in the back room of the John Birch Society, and they would publish it. So what I've done as an offspring of the book is I'm about 80% of the way creating a phone app that every individual can enter the name of a government official.
Okay.
And AI will go and look for evidence of how they align the Constitution with their policies, their votes, and their practices. All evidence, not somebody given hearsay opinion.
Yeah.
And it will give a score, and then it will give the 3 to 5 reasons why that score.
Okay.
And then it will create it into like a meme, a little card that can be immediately posted on your social media. It can be attached to an email, and you can distribute it as you wish.
Interesting.
So we take it out of the back room. It's no longer just looking at people who are office holders. You can look at candidates that have never held an office and find out what are their statements, what have they written, what articles have they written. You can analyze videos of what it all happens in like 20 seconds, maybe 40 seconds.
Okay.
This is going to be an example of how AI brings to the people the heart and essence of the Constitution, and they can point that at any person, any institution, any cultural product, a book, a streaming, Netflix, a museum exhibit, and it will come back and give a score and a reason.
Interesting. That sounds really cool.
And it's not political. By tying it to the Constitution can be interpreted liberally or conservatively, but you can't go too far. That's why we've lasted 250 years.
Yep.
And I don't really care. I'm half liberal and half conservative.
Yes.
Socially liberal, fiscally conservative. That's I've been that way my whole adult life.
Yeah.
This keeps everybody on track.
Yeah. Let me close with this. I want to remind the audience we're talking to Joel Rakow. The book is Life in Woke America, a family story of truth and betrayal under fire. I'm of the age, as they say. I grew up in the Reagan era, and there were conservatives, there were liberals, but they all lived in the same universe. They were all playing by the same rules of physics. Now we are in a time where you're not only entitled to your own opinion, but you're entitled to your own reality. This idea that this is my truth, That's a phrase that drives me crazy. I think that alone, without any partisan leanings examining this, that alone is a scary time for America. I don't know that we've had this widespread delusion across the board in our society. Does that frighten you? Would you say that is something that you worry about as we go forward, our future? Is that something you're concerned about?
So let me take this back to what we were talking about before. So remember in the 30s, we had the Red Scare. We had, we had the House of Un-American Committee of Un-American Activities. I mean, we had the same problem back then. We kind of had it again in the 80s, but it didn't get as far. Yeah. So what's the difference between those two times and now? Well, now everybody has a voice, right? I mean, you have a voice. You didn't need a media company in order to establish your voice. I don't need one. I've got, my own, 15,000 followers, and it didn't cost me hardly anything other than just some time and just getting, speaking. Right. So the tool that I was just talking about, which I call the Liberty Scorecard, is a powerful mode of combating, because now the citizens who remember the phrase, the consent of the consent of the governed. Well, the governed right now do not have a really good voice for expressing themselves. And if Musk hadn't purchased X, we'd be in pretty big trouble today. Yeah, that's true. That problem that you identified would be probably 10 times. It'd be too late. We'd be gone as a democratic republic. I believe. I don't know.
It would have been good. That's for sure.
So you've got your show. Steve Bannon's got his. And if all those listeners have, an app and they can hold people accountable to the Constitution, and we haven't talked about what are the principles of the Constitution that they get held to, but it'll be educational because everything they look at will be rendered in terms of, is it aligned with the values of the Constitution? And there's only a few that you need. Individual rights, free speech, a single code of laws for everybody, legal enforcement, equal for everybody. Now it's all citizens.
Yes.
All right. In the Constitution, it's pretty clear, but it's gotten muddied. That thing's gotten muddied. You have those things. You could do the Second Amendment. That belongs in there as well. I mean, those are the values. And so, if you look at everything through that prism, it's going to assimilate within you. It's going to, become part of you. Right now, I mean, even you and I, we heard about the Constitution. We had lectures about it, but we probably never read it.
Sure.
I mean, I didn't read it till about, maybe 10 years ago. But if you've got something like this, you will actually, you will see how the world looks as though you'd read it. That's going to be the value of AI in this situation. Yeah. And this is one of the ways you combat it. Your show, other shows, we're doing it.
Yes. Well, that sounds absolutely cool. I'm very intrigued by that. We've been talking to Joel Rakow, and let me say that again, a little more clear, Joel Rakow. And the book is Life in Woke America, A Family Story of Truth and Betrayal Under Fire. The obvious question is, where can people find the book?
Well, it's on Amazon, for sure. It's in Barnes & Noble. It's only been going for about 6 weeks. So, the distribution's expanded. So it's going so well that I published it with a little tiny publisher, was the number one hybrid publisher, Manhattan Book Group. But Ingram, who has been is like the world's biggest distributor of books, well, they want to take over management of its distribution and sales process. So it's going to become distributed around the world. But right now, it's Barnes & Noble and Amazon.
Well, congratulations on that. Where can people find you online?
Well, I'm on X at In Woke America.
Okay.
And on Facebook, Joel Rakow.
Okay.
On LinkedIn, I got a bunch of followers on LinkedIn.
Oh, that's fantastic. Yeah. I LinkedIn for me has been good, business to business. I don't know that it's good for a general platform for me anyway. And it's my own personal experience, but it's fabulous that you have a presence there and all those other places. Joel, it's been fantastic talking to you. I really appreciate the conversation today.
Well, me too. Yeah. You got a good thing going. I feel honored to be here.
Oh, well, thank you. That's very generous of you. My name is Billy Dees, and to let the audience know, you can find me on X as well, at Billy Dees. I still kind of feel that for podcasting, the real-time nature, the trending aspect of X, which is the former Twitter, is kind of still where I need to be. But I'm on most social media. You can search me out if you wish. The podcast is available on all, and I do mean all major podcast platforms, and we have been there for over 10 years. We are real easy to find. Thank you very much for listening to our program today, and we will talk to you again very, very soon.
Thank you for listening to the Billy Dees podcast. Follow Billy Dees on X at Billy Dees for updates about the program.
Do you listen to music or audiobooks on streaming devices such as Sonos or Amazon speakers? How about on your car sound system? If you use Spotify, Audible, or Amazon Music on any of these systems, you can also listen to the Billy Dees podcast the same way. Billy and his team go the extra mile to make sure our podcasts sound as good or better than anything on the radio. Listening to the Billy Dees podcast has never been easier. You literally just have to ask.